Hello, my name's Brady Workman. I'm a first-year audiology student here at ETSU. Today we're going to be talking about some hearing aids. Let's take a closer look at some of these hearing aids. So the first hearing aid we have here is a standard behind-the-ear style hearing aid. It's got a two-piece. It's a two-piece style hearing aid. You have the part that goes behind the ear that holds all the mechanical parts of the instrument, and you also have the ear mold that actually goes into the individual's ear. It's connected by a tubing here, as you can see, that carries the sound energy down into the individual's ear. There are two kinds of BTEs. You have RITAs, which is a receiver in the aid style BTE, which would be similar to this one, just meaning that the speaker that puts the energy into the tube is actually in the back part of this aid. There is also a kind called RICS, which it just means receiver in the canal. We actually don't have an example of that here with us today, but it would be more similar to this style BTE right here. That just means that the receiver is actually down here in the individual's ear canal, and there would be some wiring coming down through here carrying the electrical signal to the receiver in the canal. With BTEs, we have two different kinds of tubing. As you can see, this one is much larger and this one is fairly skinny. We would just refer to that as standard tubing, and this would be slim tubing. We'll move on to the right now. You have in the ear style hearing aids as well, and that's just what it sounds like. It goes into the individual's ear. There are several different sizes of in-the-ear style aids. Here we have a full shell, and that just means it takes up the full bowl of the individual's ear. We also have what are called half shells. We actually don't have an example of that, but it would just be slightly smaller than that. Here we have a canal style aid, and that just fits into the canal of the individual's ear. And here we also have a completely in the canal style hearing aid. It's just pretty much smaller and goes all the way into their ear canal, actually. Some of the major components of both BTEs and ITEs would be microphones. So you have microphones here on the back of the hearing aid, and then on the faceplate here on the ITEs. You have your receiver, or essentially the speaker that we were talking about just a minute ago, which would be here in this hearing aid and in this hearing aid. And then it would actually be closer to the inside of the person's ear on these in-the-ear style hearing aids. You also have a volume control. It's just a little toggle switch here on this behind-the-ear style hearing aid. Volume controls are not actually on all styles of hearing aids. Some of them that are really small, like this one, actually doesn't have a volume control on it. Here on the ITEs, we have a little volume wheel. We just turn that with the pad of our finger, and that's how you change the volume. You can turn it towards your nose to turn it up. You can be nosy, or you can turn it back towards the back of your head when you want to back the volume off. Also with ITEs, not all of them have volume controls. So you can see here on the CIC, or the completely in the canal style, we actually don't have a volume control on that. Another component would be your battery. So you have a battery door here at the bottom of the hearing aid, and here on the faceplate of the ITE, you would just flip that open and your battery would be inserted into the hearing aid, and that, of course, is the power source. Different size hearing aids require different size batteries. So the larger the hearing aid typically will have a larger battery, whereas a very small one like that will have a smaller battery. Some of them may have a program switch as well, where you can switch between pre-programmed settings. It looks like this little button here on this BTE, or you have a button similar to that on this other BTE. And you also have a program button here on this full shell. As you get to some of the smaller hearing aids, though, you don't have a program button, which just means the hearing aid would automatically switch to the programs it feels it should be in that situation. You don't have the option of switching into a manual type program. Next, we're going to talk about bone conduction hearing aids. We actually don't have an example of a bone conduction style hearing aid here with us today. But a bone conduction style hearing aid works much like the bone conduction oscillator we looked at in the clinic. It just vibrates the individual's skull to set their cochlear fluids into motion. They can either be worn as body aids or as a behind-the-ear style aid. They could be a spectacle, or they could be worn as a transducer headband. Typically, bone conduction hearing aids would be used for single-sided deafness, a large conductive hearing loss, someone with missing or malformed pinna or external auditory canal, or those that have chronic outer ear infections due to the occlusion of a standard type hearing aid. So those are some different cases in which you would use a bone conduction hearing aid. A bone conduction hearing aid works a little bit different than these styles right here. These rely on the microphones to convert the acoustical energy coming into them to be converted into electrical energy, which is then converted back into acoustical energy and amplified into the individual's ear. Whereas with a bone conduction style hearing aid, the microphones on it pick up the sound and convert those sounds into a mechanical energy to vibrate that individual's skull and to set the cochlear fluids into motion. So next we can move on to cross or contralateral routing of signals type hearing aids. These look just like any of these BTEs or ITEs right there. They're typically used for somebody that has a unilateral hearing loss, where one of the ears actually couldn't benefit from amplification. So all a cross system does is it takes information from the bad ear and transmits it over to the better ear to give that individual a sense of localization, so they can kind of localize sounds and hopefully help them out in their environment from day to day. So now we're going to talk about bone-anchored hearing devices. These are essentially the same as the bone conduction hearing aids, except for they're actually anchored to the individual's mastoid process right back here behind the ear. And now we'll move on to cochlear implants. As you can see, it's much larger than the BTEs and the ITEs we have right here. A cochlear implant is a surgically implanted device with this piece here being implanted under the individual's skin and this electrode array being inserted directly into the cochlea. The main parts of a cochlear implant would be your microphones here on the back that pick up your environmental sounds. You also have your speech processor here, which picks out speech sounds from background noise. And you also have your transmitter right here. And then you have your receiver that is implanted on the inside. So the transmitter sends signals to the receiver, which in turn sends those electrical signals down to the electrode array to directly stimulate the cochlea. So a cochlear implant consists of two parts. There is a surgically implanted part, which I have here in my hand. You can see the receiver here. And this part here is actually a magnet that would be planted into this person's mastoid process behind the ear here. As you can see, there's an electrode array that would actually be coming down into this individual's cochlea. So that would be inserted directly in there to directly stimulate the corresponding area into the cochlea. As we all know, the cochlea is tonotopically organized, so this electrode array actually stimulates the cochlea accordingly. So that's the implanted portion of the cochlear implant that would have to be implanted by a surgeon. Here is the external part of the cochlear implant. This part would sit over the individual's ear with the microphone coming down into their ear right in front of it, and that picks up the environmental sounds and transmits them to this piece here that actually goes behind the individual's ear and meets up with this receiver. So what a cochlear implant does is it transmits acoustical energy into electrical energy to directly stimulate the individual's cochlea. A cochlear implant would be a good candidate for a cochlear implant would be someone that wouldn't see benefit from traditional amplification due to dead regions in the cochlea or just non-functioning hair cells. All right, today we have Megan Wilburn with us. She's another audiology student here at ETSU, and she was nice enough to come in today and let me show how some of these hearing aids fit on a person's ear. Okay, the first hearing aid we're going to show on Megan here is just a behind-the-ear style hearing aid. As you can see, part of it actually goes behind her ear, the electronic portion, and then you have the ear mold that comes down in front that actually goes down into her ear. This obviously won't fit her ear because it's not made for her. But that's essentially the components of a behind-the-ear style hearing aid. The part that goes behind the ear, and then the part that goes in the ear, and it is connected by tubing. Here we have the other style of behind-the-ear type hearing aids. This one's with the slim tubing and the dome here on the end. You also just put that over the ear, and then the dome would go down into her ear canal. As you can see, that's a lot smaller than the traditional style BTEs. Okay, and now we have a full shell style hearing aid that would actually go into Megan's ear just like so. It would insert directly into there, and as you can see, that takes up pretty much all of the bowl of her ear. We actually don't have an example of a half shell, but it would just be a little bit smaller than that. And here we have a canal style hearing aid. So you can see it's just a little bit smaller, fits into the canal of her ear. It fits in just the same way though as a traditional ITE style, it's just a little bit smaller. Okay, and here we have a CIC, or a completely in the canal style hearing aid. This just fits down in her ear, like so. It obviously doesn't go all the way in because this CIC is actually not made for her, but it's, once again, it's just a little bit smaller than the full shells or the half shells or the canal type aid. Now I'll show you a cochlear implant. This part right here would be the surgically implanted portion of the cochlear implant. This would actually go behind her ear on the mastoid process, and then this electrode array right here would actually go down through the temporal bone into the cochlea itself. So that would be the implanted internal part of the cochlear implant. I'm going to set this down to show you the external part, but remember, if she was really a user of cochlear implants, it would be inside of her skull. Okay. And here we have the external portion of the cochlear implant. As you can see, there's a portion that goes over her ear, as well as this portion right here that goes behind her ear. This is the transmitter that actually meets up with the receiver that's implanted under the skin. And this is what you would see on an individual wearing a cochlear implant. Just this portion that goes over the ear and this portion that goes behind the ear.